Vin Diesel moved like someone trying not to be seen, which wasn't easy when you were built like a myth. Baseball cap pulled low, hoodie up despite the southern heat. He eased open the back door of Toretto's, a modest restaurant tucked between a jazz bar and a shop selling hand-rolled cigars in the French Quarter. He wasn't here to be seen. No press. No handshake parade. No family monologues for the socials. He just wanted to check in, see what the place felt like when no one knew the boss was in the building. The back hallway smelled like citrus cleaner and fryer oil. Familiar. Lived in. He liked that. It meant people were working, sweating, doing the real stuff. He passed the break room. Lights off. Then the dry storage. The door was ajar. That's when he heard it. Not loud. Just low, sharp breaths that stuttered between control and collapse. Crying. Someone trying not to cry. He paused. It would have been easy to walk on, pretend he didn't hear. Respect privacy. But something in the sound made his feet still. He nudged the door wider. A young woman sat on a crate of soda syrup, her apron bunched in her hands. Her eyes were pressed shut, jaw tight. A server. Black. Mid-20s maybe. Beautiful in that clear, unadorned way that made the world look noisy by comparison. She hadn't seen him yet. Then stepped in slowly and grabbed a bottle of water from a nearby stack. He unscrewed the cap and held it out. She flinched when she saw him. "I'm not here to bother you," he said quietly, voice low and even. "Just passing through." She took the bottle but didn't drink it. Her eyes were red but dry now. She wiped her face, almost angrily, and looked away. "Sorry," she muttered. "Didn't know anyone was back here." Vin leaned against the doorframe, giving her space. Long shift. She gave a hollow laugh. "Always." They sat in silence for a moment. Not quite strangers, not yet anything else. "I'm Vin," he said. She looked up, brows tightening. For a second, she didn't connect it. Not really. Then her eyes widened. Just a flicker, and she looked down again fast. "Oh," she murmured. "You're the owner." He nodded. "One of them." She went quiet again. Her hands tightened around the bottle. "Don't worry," he added gently. "You're not in trouble." Something in her face shifted. Like the pressure of being seen and not punished was almost worse. She breathed out slowly, shoulders sagging. "I shouldn't be back here like this." "Why not?" She blinked at him, like the question itself was foreign. "Because it's weak," she said. Vin tilted his head. "Look strong to me. Crying in private's not weakness. It's survival." That cracked something. Not a full break, just a shift in the way she held herself. She didn't speak, not right away. But she didn't leave either. And that, he thought, was something. The silence stretched, but Vin didn't rush it. He'd learned over the years, on sets, in family talks, in grief, that some things only surfaced when they weren't pulled at. The young woman, still clutching the bottle of water, shifted on the crate. She hadn't made eye contact again, but her posture was changing. Less guarded. Still small, but not retreating. He stayed leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed loosely. Waiting, not watching. "I didn't know you were coming," she said, finally. "I didn't tell anyone," he replied. "Didn't want the red carpet. Just wanted to see it like it really is." She gave a faint, humorless smile. "Then you came to the right place." Vin let the words settle. He noticed her hands, nails clipped short, knuckles dry. Server's hands. Worked raw but capable. She didn't carry herself like someone unsure of her place. Just someone tired of fighting to keep it. "What's your name?" he asked. "Asha," she said. Then, like she owed him more, "Asha Franklin." He nodded. "You been here long?" "Almost a year." He raised his eyebrows. "Long enough to have an opinion." That got a small laugh. Not warm, but real. "Yeah," she said. "Guess you could say that." "Vin waited." She glanced at the door, still cracked open, and then back at him. Her voice lowered, like the walls could listen. "I didn't plan on crying today," she said. I clocked in, and Matt hadn't moved me again. Another Sunday close. Third in a row. Said it was based on availability, even though I requested mornings this week. Vin didn't interrupt. He knew the name. Matt Donnelly. Been with the chain, 3 years. Ran this location since the soft launch. And then he gives Olivia, Asha's jaw tightened. He gives Olivia a promotion. Lead server. She's been here 3 months. He told me I should be happy for her. Said she brings a positive vibe. She said the phrase with such sharp mimicry, Vin almost winced. I train half the floor, she continued. I cover when people call out. I've picked up shifts on holidays. I don't get complaints. I don't get recognition either, but that's fine. I didn't come here to be celebrated. Her voice cracked there, just a hairline fracture. I came here because it said family on the website, because it felt like maybe, just maybe, it wasn't going to be like the last place. Vin didn't move. The air felt heavy now, thick with things unspoken for too long. Asha rubbed at her eyes again, this time not apologizing for it. It's not just the shifts or the missed promos. It's how I disappear. How I can walk past the same 3 people every day and they still ask me where the forks are like I'm new. She laughed bitterly. Matt never says anything racist. He's not stupid. He just always finds a way to remind me that I'm lucky to be here, that I should smile more, that I shouldn't make things heavy. Vin clenched his jaw. That happened a lot? He asked. She shrugged. Here? Yeah. Other places? Definitely. You get used to it, sort of. Not the pain, just the routine. He exhaled slowly. She wasn't venting. She was unraveling, carefully, like each word cost her something. Asha glanced at him then, just for a second. I didn't think you'd care, she said quietly. Most people in your position don't. Vin met her gaze without flinching. That's my name on the door, he said. If something's broken behind it, I want to know. Asha looked away again, but her shoulders didn't sag this time. They squared just slightly. Then you should know, she murmured. I'm not the only one. Asha's last words lingered in the storage room like steam off hot asphalt. Unavoidable, heavy, revealing. I'm not the only one. Vin nodded, slow and silent, as if he was signing an invisible agreement. He'd heard a lot in his life, complaints, flattery, threats. But there was something about the way Asha said it. Not to gain sympathy, not even to indict, just to make sure the truth didn't stay buried. She started to rise from the crate, brushing her apron down, clearing her throat like she had to erase the vulnerability before someone else walked in. I should get back, she said, voice flat now. My table in section 3 was waiting for Waters. Vin didn't move. You shouldn't have to armor up just to serve iced tea, he said quietly. That stopped her. Her spine stiffened, but her face turned slightly, like she was letting him see the smallest corner of herself before the door shut again. I worked worse jobs, she said. At least here, the food's decent. But the culture's not, Vin replied. She met his gaze then, direct, unblinking. Her eyes were dry now, resolved. No, she said. It's not. He stood straighter, suddenly aware of the weight in his chest. That strange, aching pressure that only came when something real broke through the polished surface of reputation. I thought we were doing better, he murmured, half to himself. Asha didn't answer. Maybe because she knew better. Maybe because silence was her final answer. She slipped past him gently, leaving the half-empty water bottle behind, and walked down the hall like someone who had already decided how much of herself she could afford to give. Vin stayed behind for a moment, listening to the muffled sounds of the restaurant, the clatter of cutlery, a bell from the pass, low laughter that didn't quite reach the eyes. Then he exhaled, ran a hand down his jaw, and turned toward the front. When he stepped into the dining room, no one noticed. And that, he realized, was part of the problem. He sat alone in a corner booth, ordered the ribeye, rare, watched as Asha moved across the floor with measured grace, never flustered, always present. He watched Matt too, charming at table 10, laughing a little too loud with the bartender. The man looked every inch the polished manager, until you watched who he avoided, where his eyes didn't go. By the time the check came, Vin had seen enough. He left a generous tip, not to Asha directly, that would only paint a target, but through another server who watched her with something like quiet admiration. Then he rose, nodded once toward the kitchen, and slipped out through the front door. The street outside was humming with the chaos of the quarter. Horns, shouts, brass music cutting through the air like a sermon. He pulled his phone from his pocket, dialed a number he rarely used. "Hey," he said when it picked up. "I need the regional ops manager in New Orleans. Tonight." A pause. "No, not a meeting. Just tell them to be at Toretto's tomorrow at noon. I'm flying someone in." Another pause. "And clear my calendar. I'll be back there myself. This isn't something I can delegate." He hung up, leaned against a lamppost, and stared down the block. For a man who built his brand on family, it was a strange thing to realize. He had let one fall apart. Noon hit like thunder. Toretto's buzzed with the usual lunch rush. Host stand humming, silverware clinking against plates, the fryers spitting heat into the air. Asha moved through it all like a metronome, her pace steady, her smile practiced. She had told herself to forget the night before, to shelve it in the place where disappointments go to gather dust. She hadn't seen Matt yet that day. Rumor was he'd come in late, probably nursing a hangover or another hangout with investors, as he liked to call them. Asha didn't care. She had work to do. Then the front door opened. The shift in the room wasn't immediate, but it was palpable, like someone had cracked the thermostat and let tension in. Heads turned. Someone at table 5 whispered, then pulled out their phone. Vin Diesel stepped into the restaurant like gravity had changed. He wasn't hiding this time. No hoodie, no capítulo, just a plain charcoal t-shirt, dark jeans, and a stare that told the truth before his mouth did. He didn't look around. He didn't wave. He walked straight to the host stand. "Get all floor staff and kitchen crew in the back," he said. The host blinked. "Right now, sir." Vin turned to face the dining room. His voice wasn't raised, but it didn't need to be. "Sorry for the interruption, folks. We'll comp your meals. Give us 15 minutes. I need to speak with my team." The room went quiet, not out of annoyance, but curiosity. This wasn't a PR stunt. It was something else. Asha, who had frozen near the service station, felt her pulse hammering beneath her collar. Matt appeared from the hallway, trying to slide into the scene with his usual brand of focal authority. "Hey, Vin," he said, forcing a grin. "Wish I'd known you were coming in. Could have set up a tour." "We're not doing that," Vin said sharply. Matt blinked. "I want everyone in the back. Now." The storage room hadn't been meant for meetings, but it had enough space to fit a dozen confused servers, 3 line cooks, a dish guy still in gloves, and one manager. Trying to look like this was all part of a training exercise. Vin stood near the stacked dry goods, arms folded. "No one's in trouble," he began. "But something's wrong here, and we're going to talk about it." Silence. Then, softly, Asha stepped forward. Not far, just enough to not be invisible. Vin's eyes met hers, briefly. Then he turned to Matt. "You've been running this place for how long?" 3 years, Matt said, chin lifting. "Since the soft opening." Vin nodded. "Got the shift records from the last 6 months. Promotion timelines. Tip distribution. I read every line on the plane this morning." Matt shifted. "Okay, look, I'm happy to explain. You know how complicated staffing can be." "It's not complicated," Vin said. "It's patterned." A pause. Same people getting the doubles. Same names missing from the high-tipping sections. Same excuses when someone black, someone brown, someone who keeps their head down and works their ass off, asks for more. A few staff members glanced toward Asha. She didn't move. Matt chuckled nervously. "Come on, man. You think I'm racist?" "I think you're careful," Vin said coldly. "Careful enough to never say anything out loud. Just careful enough to keep the pressure low, but steady. So no one has proof, just exhaustion." Matt opened his mouth. Vin raised a hand. "I don't need your defense. I needed it not to happen." Another pause. Then, "You're done here." Matt blinked. "What?" "You're fired. Effective immediately." The room stilled. "I've got HR outside with your papers. Don't worry about clearing out. We'll have someone do it." Matt's face flushed deep red. But the protest didn't come. Not here. Not now. He turned, stiff-backed, and walked out. Then looked around the room. "This place carries my name. That means something. And if it ever stops meaning something, we close the doors." He let the words hang. They weren't performative. They were promise. New protocols are being sent out today. Promotion audits. Anonymous reporting tools. Management changes. He exhaled. But this isn't about policy. It's about people. His eyes met Asha's again. And it starts with listening better and believing sooner. Matt was gone, but the silence he left behind clung to the walls. No one moved right away after Vin's announcement. The kitchen crew stared at their feet. The servers exchanged glances, some cautious, some guilty. Asha stood still, back straight, hands at her sides. Her heartbeat had steadied, but something heavier pressed in now. Visibility. For so long, she had worked in the background. Now every eye in the room knew her name without her saying it. Vin turned to the group. "This is your place now," he said. "Not just a job, not a slogan. You want to make it better? Speak up." One of the line cooks, Luis, mid-40s, always quiet, cleared his throat. "We all knew," he said, "about Matt. Just didn't think anyone would believe it if we said something." Someone else chimed in. Lila, one of the bartenders, voice low. "He told me once that Asha didn't have the polish for a front-of-house lead. But she's trained half of us." I didn't say anything. More nods followed. Uneasy, then honest. A slow domino of complicity. Vin didn't chastise. He just listened. Let the air shift. "This isn't a clean-up," he said. "It's a reset." He turned back to Asha. "You said you're not the only one," he said. "What do we need to change first?" It was the first time anyone had ever asked her that. Not what shift she could cover, not what table needed waters, but what she needed. She hesitated. The words came slowly, but firmly. "Transparency," she said. "Let us see the schedule logic. Let us apply for promotions instead of waiting for favorites. And give feedback anonymously, so we don't pay for honesty with our hours." Vendredi. Done. He turned back to the staff. "That goes for every Toretto's. Every kitchen, every floor. If you got a voice, use it. If you got power, share it." And then, because Vin never believed in speeches for the sake of them, he stopped talking. "Back to service," he said. The crew dispersed, some still processing, others already texting co-workers who missed it. Asha stayed behind. She wasn't sure if she should say anything. But then Vin stepped beside her, not in front, not above, beside. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for not pretending it was okay." She glanced up at him. Her voice was calm. "Thank you for not pretending to care." He nodded once. That was enough. As she turned to walk out, her reflection caught briefly in the chrome side of the fridge, chin high, shoulders straight. Not smaller than the room anymore. Not invisible. It was a Wednesday, the kind of day that felt like the middle of a sentence. The sky was the same dull gray it had been all week. Inside room 12A, the fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead. Mr. Callahan paced the room, clipboard in hand. "Who want to share their persuasive piece?" he asked, scanning the class. "This is how writers grow. Reading out loud. Finding your voice." A few hands went up. Elijah's stayed down. He waited. Two students read their essays, one about banning homework, another about why cats were superior to dogs. Light clapping followed each. Callahan smiled, nodding, making notes. Then Elijah raised his hand. Callahan blinked. "Yes, Elijah. I want to read mine." The class quieted. A few heads turned. Elijah didn't often speak up unless called on. He walked slowly to the front, paper in hand. No photo album, no proof. Just the words. He didn't look at Mr. Callahan. He didn't need to. He began. "Some people are invisible unless you need them. They don't get awards. They don't have titles. But they're the reason you don't fall apart when everything else breaks. I have someone like that. He doesn't live in my house. He doesn't have the same last name. He's not in the school directory. But he's my dad. He's been in my life since I could walk. He teaches me how to stay calm when people try to shrink me. He sends me books and asks what I think of them. He listens. And sometimes he brings me cookies and never asks for one back. Some people think family has to look a certain way. Same blood, same house, same skin. But families are made, not just born. My dad didn't have to be there. He chose to be. So when I say my dad is Vin Diesel, I don't mean the man on the screen. I mean the man who showed me what strength looks like when it's quiet. And if that doesn't fit someone's storybook, that's okay. Because it fits mine. When Elijah finished, he folded the paper neatly. He didn't look up right away. The room was still, not silent like confusion, silent like understanding. Mr. Callahan cleared his throat. Thank you, Elijah. That was poetic. For future reference, try to keep persuasive writing more structured. But nice work. Elijah nodded once. Walked back to his seat. Behind him, someone murmured, that was actually kind of dope. Another voice whispered, that line about strength? That was hard. He didn't turn, didn't grin, but he sat a little straighter. Outside, the wind had stilled. For the first time in days, a sliver of sunlight slipped through the clouds. Asha stood behind the bar, tying up loose napkins with twine, one hand moving rhythmically while her mind worked in quieter ways. The dinner rush was over. The restaurant had exhaled. It was her favorite time of night, after the noise but before the silence. The new shift system had gone live that morning. Everything color-coded, transparent, and open to view by the whole team. No more back-office edits. No more accidental last-minute doubles. It was a small thing, but it felt like a door cracking open in a windowless room. Janelle, the interim manager, had already begun to rotate leadership tasks among staff. The first person she asked to help revise the onboarding manual had been Asha. Not because I'm trying to be nice, Janelle had said, hands on her hips, but because I've read your service notes. You think 2 steps ahead of most of us. Asha hadn't known what to say to that. She was still learning how to receive praise that wasn't transactional. Now, as she stacked menus and wiped down the final table, a younger server named Brittany came up beside her. Hey, Brittany said, do you mind showing me how you handled that situation with the gluten allergy at table 12? I get nervous when people ask for substitutions, and you made it look easy. Asha blinked, not because the request shocked her, but because Brittany had never spoken to her like that before. Not with respect, not like a peer. Sure, Asha said softly. It's just about asking the right questions first. As she walked Brittany through her method, she realized something had shifted, not just in the system, but in how people looked at her. Like she was no longer a background fixture, but someone you might want to learn from. That night, after close, Asha walked past the dry storage room. She paused, just briefly, and glanced inside. The crate she'd once sat on had been moved. The space felt bigger now. Or maybe it was just her. She didn't linger. There was nothing left to mourn in that room. Out front, Vin was standing near the curb with his phone in his pocket. Not texting, not taking calls, just watching. She walked up beside him. We're holding, she said. We're not fixed, but we're holding. Vano dead. You ever think about what kind of place you'd run if it were yours? She shrugged, but a smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. I'd run one where people didn't have to collapse in back rooms to be heard. He looked at her, not with pity, not with gratitude, just with clarity. Let me know when you're ready to build that, he said. I'll help fund it. She didn't answer, just bumped his shoulder lightly with her own. Ask me again in 6 months. Then she walked back inside, keys jangling in one hand, the weight of them no longer a burden. 3 weeks later, Toretto's didn't look different, but it felt different. No banners, no grand relaunch, no press releases. Just the quiet architecture of trust being rebuilt brick by brick. Staff meetings started with check-ins. Schedules were collaborative. The kitchen team rotated who chose the playlist. Small things. But Asha had learned those were the ones that lasted. One Thursday evening, she sat at the staff table after close, sipping a lukewarm tea. The floor was already swept, receipts tallied, lights dimmed to a soft golden hum. Across from her, one of the new hires, a lanky college kid named Marcus, fumbled through his notebook. You really handled that customer today, he said. The one with the celiac question. You didn't even blink. Asha smiled, small and measured. I used to panic too. You just learn what's yours to carry and what's not. Marcus blinked at her. That's a bar. Can I write that down? She chuckled. It's not copyrighted. She stayed late that night. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She walked the floor one last time, fingertips brushing the edge of each table. Not ownership, not performance, just presence. As she reached the front, she saw a new plaque near the host stand. It hadn't been there yesterday. Family isn't how loud you talk. It's how closely you listen. In honor of the unseen voices who make us better. No names. No branding. Just a quote. Asha tilted her head, reading it again. A slow warmth spread through her chest. Not pride, not satisfaction. Something older than that. Something like peace. She turned off the last light and stepped outside. The night air of New Orleans wrapped around her, soft and thick. Jazz leaked from a nearby bar, its notes warm and wandering. Asha walked past the curb where Vin had stood weeks ago. Her shoes tapped gently against the sidewalk, not hurried, not hidden. She moved like someone who belonged. And this time, she didn't need to look over her shoulder to believe it.